What if the person you trust to uphold justice suddenly became your worst enemy? The courtroom was packed, the air thick with anticipation and tension. Judge Marcus Delroy sat at the bench, his expression cold and unreadable as Elon Musk entered the room, calm but clearly bracing for a storm. This was no ordinary trial, it was a high-profile legal battle with millions watching worldwide. The judge's arrogance was palpable as he barely concealed his disdain for Elon, a man he saw as nothing more than a flashy billionaire. Suddenly, in a moment that shocked everyone, Marcus Delroy slammed his gavel down and spat out an insult aimed directly at Elon, questioning not just his business ethics but his intelligence and character. A stunned silence fell over the courtroom before murmurs erupted like wildfire. The courtroom reporters' pen froze. Lawyers exchanged glances, unsure if they'd heard correctly. The tension was electric. What would happen next? Would justice prevail, or was the entire system about to unravel before their eyes? This story begins here, but it's not just about a courtroom clash, it's about pride, downfall, and a fight for redemption. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? As the judge's harsh words echoed, the room felt like it could explode at any moment. Elon's face was unreadable, but inside, a storm raged. This wasn't just a legal fight, it was personal, a battle between two very different worlds. Marcus Delroy, once respected and untouchable, was about to discover that arrogance could lead even the most powerful men to ruin. Minutes later, he would be dragged out of his own courtroom in handcuffs, a spectacle that would shake the nation. But before the fall, let's step back and understand the man behind the robe and the reasons this confrontation became inevitable. Marcus Delroy wasn't always the haughty judge people now feared. Raised in a wealthy suburb of Chicago, he grew up in a family where success was demanded, but affection was scarce. His father, a stern corporate lawyer, pushed Marcus relentlessly, demanding perfection, instilling a sense of entitlement but also deep insecurity. As a child, Marcus learned to mask his vulnerability with arrogance, using his intellect as a weapon to stay ahead. He graduated top of his class, sailed through Harvard Law, and climbed the judicial ladder with a mixture of brilliance and ruthless ambition. Yet beneath his polished exterior lay a man haunted by loneliness and unresolved anger. His marriage had crumbled under the weight of his pride, and friendships had withered as he prioritized power over connection. Marcus's courtroom demeanor reflected this. Cold, dismissive, unyielding. He believed in the law, but more so in his own authority, convinced that his judgment was infallible. Elon Musk, on the other hand, was a figure of relentless innovation and controversy. Born in South Africa, he had faced his own demons, failures, public ridicule, and personal struggles. Yet Elon's vision for the future, from electric cars to space travel, had captivated millions. His resilience was legendary, fueled by a deep conviction that his work mattered beyond profit. The case in question was a lawsuit over alleged intellectual property theft, a battle with huge stakes for Elon's companies and reputation. From the start, Marcus seemed determined to undermine Elon, questioning his credibility and motivations with barely concealed contempt. The courtroom was a pressure cooker of tension, each side bracing for the other's next move. As the trial opened, Marcus's arrogance flared. He interrupted Elon's lawyers, dismissing evidence, and even ridiculed Elon's passion for innovation, calling it foolhardy dreaming. Elon's calm was tested, but he held firm, driven by more than just legal victory. This was about defending his vision and legacy. The media frenzy outside only added to the pressure, painting Marcus as the villain and Elon as the underdog. The story swung like a pendulum between moments of despair and flickers of hope. Elon's team found allies among witnesses, while Marcus dug in, trying to control the narrative. Then came the moment that changed everything, Marcus's insulting outburst. It wasn't just a slip, it was a deliberate provocation. The courtroom gasped as the judge's words hung in the air, shattering decorum and exposing the fragility beneath Marcus's stern facade. Elon's eyes locked with Marcus's, a silent challenge passing between them. What happened next was a turning point no one could have predicted. Security officers moved swiftly as Marcus refused to back down, escalating the conflict. Minutes later, amid stunned silence and flashing cameras, Marcus Delroy was dragged from the courtroom in handcuffs, his judicial career in ruins. The fallout was immediate and explosive. Public opinion turned sharply, debates ignited about justice, power, and the human flaws behind the robe. This opening moment was just the start of a story about pride, downfall, resilience, and unexpected redemption. The question remains, what pushes us forward when everything seems lost? For Marcus, it was the harsh lesson that no amount of arrogance can shield you from the consequences of your actions. For Elon, it was the unwavering belief in a future worth fighting for. This is their story. Stay tuned as we explore the depths of human ambition, the complexity of justice, and the surprising ways a fall can lead to a new beginning. Marcus Delroy was born into a world that expected nothing less than perfection. His childhood home was a large, immaculate house in a wealthy Chicago suburb where success was measured by status and power. His father, Gerald Delroy, was a high-powered corporate attorney who rarely showed warmth but demanded excellence. From a young age, Marcus learned that affection was conditional, earned through achievement and submission to the family's high standards. Gerald's cold demeanor was a constant presence. He praised Marcus only when he excelled academically or demonstrated the discipline to follow his plans. Failure or emotional vulnerability was met with silence or harsh criticism. Marcus, an only child, became a master of masking insecurity with a fierce arrogance. He learned that by acting untouchable, by showing no weakness, he could command respect and avoid disappointment. At school, Marcus was the kid who never lost a debate, the one teachers admired for his quick mind and sharp tongue. His intelligence earned him scholarships and awards, but behind the success, he felt isolated. The classmates who tried to get close were often pushed away by his bluntness or condescension. In his teenage years, Marcus struggled with this tension, wanting connection but fearing vulnerability. His mother had passed away when he was 10, a loss that was quietly endured and never openly mourned in the household. This left Marcus with a deep loneliness that only fueled his drive to succeed. At Harvard Law School, Marcus's brilliance flourished, but so did his arrogance. Professors praised his analytical skills, but many students found him cold and dismissive. He surrounded himself with other ambitious individuals but never let anyone get too close. Relationships were strategic, alliances formed to advance his career rather than genuine friendships. After graduation, Marcus quickly rose through the ranks of a prestigious law firm, earning a reputation as a ruthless and effective attorney. His ability to dismantle opponents in court was legendary, but his interpersonal skills were lacking. Colleagues respected him but did not trust him. His personal life suffered. His marriage to Emily, a vibrant and compassionate woman, collapsed after 5 years. She had hoped Marcus would soften with time, but his pride and unwillingness to show vulnerability created a chasm too wide to bridge. Emily left, taking their young daughter with her. This loss hardened Marcus further, reinforcing his belief that emotional attachment was a weakness that distracted from ambition. When Marcus was appointed as a judge, many celebrated the achievement of a brilliant legal mind, but few knew the man behind the robe. Marcus ruled with an iron fist, believing that strict justice required cold detachment. He was known for cutting down lawyers and witnesses alike with biting remarks, often crossing the line into cruelty. His courtroom was a place where fear reigned, and respect was demanded, not earned. Behind closed doors, Marcus's life was marked by isolation. His estranged daughter rarely contacted him, and his few remaining friendships were superficial. Late at night, he sometimes found himself staring at old photographs, wondering if the price of success was too high. Yet his arrogance blinded him to this loneliness. He told himself it was the cost of greatness. When Marcus learned about the lawsuit involving Elon Musk, he saw it as just another opportunity to assert his dominance. Elon represented everything Marcus despised, a flashy billionaire who flaunted convention, a disruptor who challenged the establishment. Marcus resented Elon's celebrity status and viewed him as a symbol of arrogance that mirrored his own hidden fears. Throughout the trial, Marcus's contempt for Elon was apparent in his tone and rulings. He dismissed Elon's testimony with sneers and interrupted his lawyers with harsh words. Behind his harshness was a man struggling to maintain control, not just of the courtroom, but of his own unraveling pride. The insults Marcus hurled at Elon during the infamous courtroom scene were not just legal critiques but deeply personal attacks, born from jealousy and insecurity. This moment revealed the cracks in Marcus's carefully constructed facade. The judge who had once believed himself untouchable was about to face consequences that would shatter his world. But before that fall, there were moments of reflection and conflict in Marcus's past that shaped the man he became. His relationship with his father was central to this story. Gerald Delroy had been a titan in the legal world, a man who demanded Marcus follow in his footsteps and uphold the family legacy. Yet Gerald's love was conditional, measured by Marcus's ability to achieve rather than by who he was. This dynamic created a relentless pressure that haunted Marcus well into adulthood. After a failed reconciliation attempt, Gerald died suddenly, leaving Marcus with unresolved guilt and a legacy he felt compelled to live up to. Marcus's mother's death had left a void that no achievement could fill. She had been the emotional anchor in his life, the one person who had shown him unconditional love. Without her, Marcus felt adrift, his pride a shield against the vulnerability he feared would consume him. His failed marriage to Emily was another pivotal chapter. Emily's departure marked a turning point, cementing Marcus's belief that emotional connection was a liability. He threw himself into his work, burying his pain beneath layers of arrogance and control. This made him formidable in court but increasingly isolated outside it. The tension between Marcus's public persona and private struggles created a volatile mix. He was a man torn between the desire for connection and the fear of weakness, between his drive for success and the emptiness it left behind. This inner conflict played out in the courtroom, fueling his clashes with Elon Musk. Elon's resilience and vision challenged Marcus's worldview, forcing the judge to confront parts of himself he had long suppressed. As the trial progressed, Marcus's arrogance became both his weapon and his downfall. The insults he hurled at Elon were as much about protecting his fragile ego as they were about legal strategy. In those moments, Marcus was a man unmasked, exposed to the world not as a judge but as a flawed human being. The courtroom drama that followed was not just a legal battle but a story about pride, power, and the cost of denying one's humanity. Marcus's journey would take him from the heights of authority to the depths of disgrace. Yet in that fall lay the possibility of redemption, if only he could learn to face the truths he had long avoided. This is the story of Marcus Delroy, a man whose arrogance blinded him to the most important judgment of all. The one he had to make about himself. Elon Musk's story was one of relentless ambition, boundless innovation, and complex contradictions. Born in Pretoria, South Africa, Elon had always been fascinated by technology and the power of ideas to change the world. As a child, he was an avid reader, devouring books about science fiction and engineering, dreaming of a future that stretched far beyond the confines of his small hometown. Yet Elon's early life was far from easy. He faced bullying at school, social isolation, and the challenge of a difficult family dynamic. His parents' divorce added to the instability, forcing young Elon to develop an intense inner drive and independence. Moving to Canada as a teenager and later to the United States for college, Elon was driven by a desire to escape his past and build a new future. His journey was marked by highs and lows, successes and failures that tested his resilience. At the University of Pennsylvania, Elon excelled in physics and economics, showing early signs of the visionary entrepreneur he would become. He dropped out of a PhD program at Stanford after just 2 days, convinced that the internet and technology offered bigger opportunities. With his brother Kimball, Elon launched Zip2, one of the earliest online city guides, which sold for nearly $300 million. But this was just the beginning. Elon's true passion was in pushing the boundaries of what was possible. He invested in PayPal, transforming the way people handled money online before selling it to eBay for $1.5 billion. Then came SpaceX, Tesla, and a string of bold ventures that combined audacity with genius. Elon's vision for the future included colonizing Mars, revolutionizing transportation with electric vehicles, and creating a sustainable energy economy. But with vision came controversy. Elon's outspoken nature, bold statements on social media, and unconventional management style attracted criticism and legal battles. His public image was polarizing. Some saw him as a brilliant innovator, others as a reckless billionaire. This duality made him a compelling figure on the world stage. Despite the challenges, Elon's resilience was legendary. He faced multiple near bankruptcies, production delays, and intense scrutiny from regulators and media. Yet he refused to back down, driven by a belief that failure was simply a step toward eventual success. This determination was fueled not only by ambition but by a deep sense of purpose. Elon saw himself as part of a larger mission, to secure humanity's future by expanding beyond Earth and transforming energy use on the planet. The lawsuit that brought Elon into conflict with Judge Marcus Delroy touched on these deeper stakes. The case alleged that Elon's companies had infringed on intellectual property related to advanced battery technology, threatening the viability of his vision. For Elon, this was not just a legal matter but a battle for the future he believed in. Unlike Marcus, Elon's relationships with family and friends were complicated but often more open. His parents were supportive in their own ways, and despite public ups and downs, Elon maintained close bonds with his children. He valued loyalty and trusted those who shared his vision, though his demanding nature sometimes strained these relationships. Elon's ability to balance visionary thinking with practical problem-solving set him apart. His teams marveled at his willingness to dive into technical details, his insistence on quality, and his refusal to accept excuses. But this intensity also created tension, making Elon both inspiring and difficult to work with. The courtroom battle with Marcus Delroy was a test not just of legal strategy but of character. Elon remained composed in the face of insults and setbacks, drawing strength from his past struggles and his vision for the future. He refused to be cowed by the judge's arrogance or the weight of the legal system. Throughout the trial, Elon showed moments of vulnerability, brief glimpses of a man who carried the burden of immense pressure and public scrutiny. Yet he also displayed hope and determination, rallying his team and supporters with a steady belief that justice would prevail. The clash with Marcus was more than a conflict between two men, it was a collision of worldviews. Marcus represented the old guard, rigid and judgmental, while Elon embodied disruption and innovation. The courtroom became a stage for this larger battle, filled with tension, drama, and unexpected twists. Elon's ability to remain focused under pressure was key to navigating the mounting challenges. As Marcus's insults escalated, Elon did not respond with anger but with calm resolve, signaling a strength that extended beyond legal arguments. This poise earned him respect from observers and supporters, even as the judge's behavior shocked many. The story of Elon Musk's rise was a reminder that innovation often comes with controversy and sacrifice. His journey had been shaped by moments of doubt and failure, but also by relentless hope and vision. This balance of vulnerability and strength made him a compelling figure, capable of inspiring millions and enduring fierce opposition. The legal battle tested this resilience, pushing Elon to confront not only his opponents but his own fears and doubts. Behind the headlines and courtroom drama was a man who believed deeply in his mission and the future he sought to create. Elon's story was one of contradictions, brilliant yet flawed, determined yet occasionally impulsive, visionary yet grounded in practical reality. These complexities made him both relatable and enigmatic, a figure larger than life yet shaped by very human struggles. As the trial unfolded, Elon's past informed his every move. He drew on lessons learned from early failures and public criticism, using setbacks as fuel for renewed effort. His ability to pivot and adapt was crucial in facing Marcus's escalating hostility and the mounting legal obstacles. The case also revealed Elon's capacity for forgiveness and strategic thinking. When Marcus unexpectedly insulted him in court, Elon's choice not to retaliate immediately was calculated, designed to maintain moral high ground and public sympathy. This restraint demonstrated a level of emotional intelligence often overlooked in public portrayals of Elon as impulsive or brash. The courtroom was more than a battleground, it was a crucible that forged new insights and growth for Elon. The experience deepened his understanding of power, justice, and human nature, lessons that would shape his leadership moving forward. Ultimately, Elon Musk's story was not just about technology or business. It was about the human spirit's ability to dream, struggle, and persevere against overwhelming odds. The clash with Judge Marcus Delroy was a chapter in this larger narrative, a moment where arrogance met resilience, and justice faced its own test. This story invites readers to reflect on the price of ambition, the complexities of human character, and the surprising ways conflict can reveal deeper truths. As we continue, the drama of the courtroom will unfold, revealing not just a legal battle but a story of transformation, humility, and hope. Elon Musk's journey reminds us that even in the face of insult and opposition, the drive to create and the belief in a better future can never be extinguished. The courtroom was no longer just a room for legal proceedings, it had transformed into an arena where pride, power, and personal vendettas clashed beneath the guise of justice. Judge Marcus Delroy's demeanor grew increasingly volatile as the trial progressed, his contempt for Elon Musk barely concealed. Early on, Elon's legal team presented evidence that detailed groundbreaking work on battery technology, a critical innovation for Tesla's future and a cornerstone of Musk's vision for sustainable energy. However, Marcus interrupted repeatedly, dismissing key testimonies and questioning the validity of the scientific data. The tension between Marcus and Elon's team grew palpable. The judge's interruptions weren't merely procedural, they were laced with a sharp edge of disdain. His pointed questions to witnesses seemed designed to undermine Elon's credibility rather than seek clarity. Marcus appeared to relish his role as an adversary, casting himself as the gatekeeper who would decide the fate of a man he clearly disliked. For Elon, the courtroom was a battlefield where he had to defend not only his company but his very reputation. Marcus's hostility was unexpected and deeply personal, going beyond the typical judge's impartiality. Friends and colleagues watching the trial unfold noticed how Marcus seemed determined to humiliate Elon, as if settling some private score. Meanwhile, Elon remained steady. Despite Marcus's biting remarks, he refused to rise to the bait. Instead, Elon's calm responses and carefully measured statements sent a clear message: he would not be intimidated. This resilience shifted the courtroom's dynamic. Lawyers and observers began to see Elon not as a reckless billionaire but as a focused visionary with a cause worth fighting for. The media frenzy outside the courthouse added another layer of complexity. Headlines splashed accusations of bias and judicial misconduct, while social media buzzed with heated debates. Supporters rallied behind Elon, praising his perseverance, while critics accused him of playing the victim. Marcus, feeling the pressure but unwilling to appear weak, doubled down. His rulings became more severe, and his public comments hinted at frustration with Elon's defiance. A defining moment came during a witness cross-examination when Marcus accused Elon of manipulating facts and misleading the court. Elon's lawyer objected, but Marcus overruled the objection, his voice sharp and unyielding. The courtroom gasped, sensing the brewing storm. This moment set the tone for the remainder of the trial, with escalating clashes and deepening divides. The story alternated between moments of hope and despair. At one point, Elon's team uncovered evidence suggesting that the plaintiff's own company had engaged in questionable practices, a discovery that reignited hope for a favorable outcome. Marcus, however, seemed unmoved. He brushed aside this new information, casting doubt on its relevance. The legal battle became a roller coaster of emotions. Elon's allies rallied, offering support and public statements defending his integrity. Marcus's supporters argued that the judge was maintaining order and upholding the law. Behind the scenes, tension soared. Elon's closest confidants worried about the toll the trial was taking on him, seeing cracks in his usually unshakable confidence. Marcus, too, was struggling internally. His private moments revealed a man torn between his sense of duty and his personal grudges. Despite his arrogance, Marcus was haunted by fears of losing control, of being exposed as vulnerable. The conflict wasn't just external, it was a battle within both men. At times, the courtroom seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next unexpected move. Then came the pivotal exchange that would become the trial's most infamous moment. During a heated session, Marcus snapped. Frustrated by what he saw as Elon's evasiveness and arrogance, he unleashed a stinging insult. "Mr. Musk," Marcus said sharply, "your genius seems to be matched only by your recklessness and lack of integrity. You're not the visionary you claim to be, you're a fraud in a suit." The words hung in the air like a bombshell. The courtroom erupted in stunned silence, then whispers and murmurs. Elon's face remained composed, but his eyes flashed with a mixture of shock and resolve. Security personnel shifted uncomfortably, lawyers exchanged anxious glances. This wasn't just a courtroom reprimand, it was a public humiliation, a moment that shattered the usual decorum of legal proceedings. Marcus's outburst was a turning point. The judge's behavior now became the central story, overshadowing the trial itself. Legal experts debated whether Marcus had crossed ethical boundaries, while the public debated what it said about power and justice. Elon's calm response only added fuel to the fire. Instead of retaliating with anger, he calmly asked for the record to show Marcus's insult and requested a formal review. This act of restraint impressed many, reinforcing Elon's image as a man focused on justice rather than personal vendettas. Behind the scenes, Elon's legal team prepared to use Marcus's outburst as leverage. They argued that the judge's bias compromised the fairness of the trial and demanded his recusal. The courtroom drama intensified. Marcus refused to step down, insisting he was the only one capable of overseeing the case fairly. His defiance only deepened the divide. Public opinion polarized further, with social media and news outlets erupting in debate. As the trial dragged on, new conflicts arose. Marcus's rulings grew more unpredictable. At times, he appeared almost obsessed with controlling every detail, even minor procedural issues. This erratic behavior worried even his closest colleagues, who feared it might jeopardize the entire case. Elon's supporters organized public demonstrations, demanding transparency and fairness in the legal system. The case became a symbol of larger societal struggles, between old institutions and new innovators, between arrogance and humility, between power and accountability. Marcus's arrogance, once a source of strength, now seemed to isolate him. His courtroom felt like a fortress under siege. Meanwhile, Elon's resilience inspired others. He continued to push forward, unveiling new technological advancements and publicly reaffirming his commitment to the future. Despite the mounting pressure, he showed moments of humility, acknowledging mistakes and emphasizing teamwork. This balance of confidence and vulnerability made him a compelling figure, one many rallied behind. The trial reached a crescendo as Marcus's outbursts escalated. The judge's bitterness boiled over during a session where he openly criticized Elon's character in front of the court, accusing him of exploiting the legal system and public sympathy. Security moved closer, sensing the volatility. The legal teams braced for the fallout. In response, Elon's team submitted a formal complaint to the Judicial Oversight Committee, citing Marcus's repeated breaches of conduct. The committee launched an investigation, further heightening tensions. The courtroom became a powder keg, with every session filled with anticipation and unease. Marcus, isolated and defensive, clung to his authority even as cracks appeared in his public image. Elon, navigating the storm, focused on the bigger picture, his mission and the integrity of his companies. This rising conflict set the stage for the dramatic turning points to come. Both men faced critical choices. Marcus could either confront his flaws and seek redemption or be consumed by his pride and downfall. Elon had to balance his fight for justice with the demands of leadership and innovation. As the story unfolded, the courtroom drama became a mirror reflecting the complexities of human nature. Ambition, arrogance, resilience, and the search for meaning. The tension between Marcus and Elon was more than a personal feud, it was a battle for the soul of justice itself. And just when it seemed the conflict had reached its peak, an unexpected event would soon upend everything, propelling the story into a climactic journey that would change both men forever. The courtroom had become a pressure cooker, thick with tension and anticipation, every breath seeming heavier than the last. What started as a typical lawsuit had morphed into a high-stakes drama that captivated not only legal experts but millions across the country. Marcus Delroy sat rigid on the bench, his eyes narrowing as Elon Musk's defense team presented a fresh wave of evidence, documents that promised to shift the entire narrative. The air felt electric, like the calm before a storm, and everyone inside the cavernous courthouse sensed something monumental was about to happen. The new evidence detailed internal emails from the plaintiff's company revealing not only that the battery technology in question was not as proprietary as claimed but that certain executives had deliberately obscured information to gain leverage in the lawsuit. Elon's lead attorney, Maria Benton, paced confidently as she methodically laid out the revelations, pointing to each damning email on the projector with a practiced hand. Marcus, normally unshaken, shifted slightly, his gaze flickering with something between irritation and disbelief. The courtroom's decor, high wood paneling, ornate chandeliers, and rows of polished benches, seemed to amplify every whispered conversation and sharp intake of breath. Outside, the city's hustle continued oblivious, but inside, time slowed, stretching every second into eternity. Elon sat composed, though inside he felt a surge of adrenaline. This was his moment, not just to defend his company but to defend the vision that had driven him from a bullied boy in South Africa to the forefront of technological revolution. Yet he was painfully aware of Marcus's simmering fury. The judge's reputation for cutting down witnesses and lawyers with barbed remarks was legendary, but now it felt personal, like a vendetta brewing beneath the surface. The courtroom was a crucible where power was tested in ways far beyond legal precedent. Marcus banged his gavel, demanding silence, his voice cold and commanding. Enough theatrics. Evidence must be relevant and admissible, not a circus. His words stung like a whip, but Maria Benton was unfazed. She stood firm, her tone sharp yet professional. Your Honor, this evidence directly challenges the plaintiff's claims and exposes their intent to deceive the court. For a moment, the room held its collective breath as Marcus weighed the argument. Then, unexpectedly, he announced he would allow the new evidence, a decision that sent ripples through the courtroom and the media alike. This ruling marked a turning point, a crack in Marcus's seemingly impenetrable armor and a sign that justice might yet prevail. The trial continued with a renewed energy. Witnesses took the stand, their testimonies revealing layers of corporate intrigue and ethical lapses. Elon's team meticulously dismantled the plaintiff's narrative, piece by piece. But Marcus's behavior grew increasingly erratic. His interruptions became sharper, his tone more biting. At times, he seemed less a neutral arbiter and more a general rallying troops for battle. His personal animosity toward Elon became harder to hide. One afternoon, after a particularly tense exchange where Marcus accused Elon of playing the victim to evade accountability, an unprecedented scene unfolded. Marcus demanded that Elon personally testify. Elon had hoped to avoid this, knowing the risk of direct confrontation with a judge who had shown signs of bias. Yet he agreed, stepping into the witness box with a calm determination that surprised many. The courtroom shifted to a hushed silence, the kind that signals the arrival of something significant. Elon's testimony was a masterclass in composure and clarity. He spoke candidly about the challenges of innovation, the pressures of leadership, and his commitment to transparency. His words painted a picture not of a reckless billionaire but of a visionary driven by a higher purpose. Marcus's questions, though pointed and relentless, failed to rattle Elon. Instead, the judge's impatience became more evident, his veiled hostility turning almost openly hostile. Mr. Musk, Marcus snapped during one exchange, you claim to be a pioneer, yet your actions have caused chaos and confusion. How do you justify that? Elon paused, his eyes steady. Innovation is never without risk, Your Honor. But without taking risks, progress stalls. I accept responsibility for setbacks, but my commitment has always been to push boundaries and find solutions. The courtroom felt the weight of Elon's words. For a brief moment, Marcus's facade cracked, revealing the conflicted man beneath, the judge who wrestled with his own fears and insecurities. The tension between them was palpable, a clash not just of personalities but of ideals. After the testimony, as the courtroom emptied, whispers swirled about the power dynamic unfolding in public view. News outlets seized on Elon's performance and Marcus's increasingly unpredictable conduct. The story had transcended legal boundaries, it was now a cultural moment, a symbolic battle between old power structures and new disruptive forces. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, Marcus faced mounting pressure. Judicial oversight bodies had received complaints about his conduct, and colleagues whispered concerns about his temperament. Marcus, however, remained defiant, convinced that his actions were justified and necessary to uphold justice. The courtroom drama was mirrored by a personal journey. Marcus found himself grappling with memories and regrets from his past, the strained relationship with his father, the loss of his wife and daughter, and the loneliness that shadowed his success. These reflections, though hidden from public view, influenced his every decision. The clash with Elon stirred deep wounds, forcing Marcus to confront parts of himself he had long denied. For Elon, the trial was more than a legal battle, it was a test of endurance and identity. His team worked tirelessly, navigating complex legal strategies while Elon himself juggled public appearances, company crises, and personal challenges. Yet the courtroom remained the crucible where everything converged. Each session peeled back layers of truth and pretense, revealing not only the facts but the very nature of power and justice. As the trial approached its most critical phase, an unexpected twist upended the narrative. A whistleblower came forward with evidence that could exonerate Elon completely and implicate the plaintiff in fraud and conspiracy. This revelation sent shockwaves through the case and the media. Marcus, caught off guard, struggled to contain his reaction. The courtroom buzzed with speculation, the tension between judge and defendant reaching new heights. The whistleblower's testimony was dramatic and detailed, painting a damning picture of corporate deception designed to sabotage Elon's companies. The evidence included internal memos, recordings, and financial records that would be nearly impossible to refute. This moment was a turning point, a chance for redemption, justice, and resolution. But Marcus's response was unpredictable. Instead of welcoming the new evidence, he questioned its legitimacy aggressively, accusing the whistleblower of ulterior motives. This move shocked many and deepened suspicions about Marcus's impartiality. The trial now seemed poised on a knife's edge, with justice balanced precariously between truth and bias. Elon's team responded with a mixture of frustration and strategic recalibration, determined to prove the whistleblower's credibility beyond doubt. The courtroom drama intensified, every hearing filled with explosive revelations, sharp exchanges, and moments of high drama. Outside the courthouse, the public watched with rapt attention, debating the fate of two powerful men locked in a struggle that reflected larger societal tensions. Marcus's arrogance and stubbornness were both his armor and his vulnerability. Elon's resilience and vision were his strength and shield. The climactic journey was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. As the story moved toward its emotional climax, the courtroom would witness not only a battle for legal victory but a profound reckoning with pride, power, and the possibility of change. The stage was set for a conclusion that would shake the foundations of the justice system and leave an indelible mark on everyone involved. The tension in the courtroom reached a breaking point as the whistleblower's evidence began to unravel the carefully constructed facade of the plaintiff's case. The air was thick with anticipation, every eye fixed on the judge's bench where Marcus Delroy sat with a face that betrayed a storm raging beneath the surface. Marcus had spent months trying to maintain control over the trial, but now the walls were closing in, and the cracks in his authority became impossible to ignore. The whistleblower, a former executive named Rachel Adams, was sworn in. Her testimony was delivered with a trembling voice but unwavering conviction. She recounted years of internal corruption, deliberate misinformation campaigns, and a conspiracy to derail Elon Musk's companies for financial gain. The room fell into stunned silence as Rachel described secret meetings, forged documents, and the deliberate withholding of critical data. Marcus's usual composure faltered. His hands gripped the edge of the bench, knuckles white. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs, the gravity of the revelations sinking in. Elon watched silently, the weight of the moment pressing down but his resolve unshaken. For months, he had battled not just a lawsuit but a judge whose animosity felt deeply personal. Now, the truth was on the verge of breaking free. Marcus called for a recess, retreating to his chambers, where the emotional toll finally surfaced. Alone, he confronted the conflicting forces inside him, the relentless drive to maintain control and the creeping realization that justice might be slipping through his fingers. His thoughts drifted to his late daughter, the tragic loss that had hardened him, fueling his bitterness and suspicion. The courtroom was more than a place of law, it was a battleground for his demons. When proceedings resumed, Marcus's demeanor had shifted. There was a flicker of vulnerability beneath his stern exterior. The whistleblower's evidence was scrutinized by both sides, with Elon's legal team presenting supporting documents and expert witnesses who validated her claims. Yet Marcus remained skeptical, demanding proof and challenging every assertion. The emotional climax unfolded not just in legal arguments but in the undercurrents of human frailty and pride. Then came the moment that stunned everyone. During cross-examination, Rachel revealed a secret, one that implicated Marcus himself in a shadowy past connection to the plaintiff's company, a relationship that, if true, meant a clear conflict of interest. The courtroom gasped. Marcus's face drained of color, eyes flashing with fury and disbelief. Elon's lawyers moved swiftly, requesting the judge recuse himself immediately. Marcus refused, his voice shaking with rage, "These accusations are baseless and slanderous. I will not be bullied or manipulated." But the damage was done. The story exploded in the media, with headlines accusing Marcus of corruption and bias. The courtroom transformed into a spectacle of chaos and controversy. Marcus's authority crumbled as the Judicial Oversight Committee stepped in to investigate. The emotional climax was not just about the legal battle, it was about power, pride, and the price of secrets kept too long. Elon's reaction was measured. He expressed disappointment but emphasized the need for transparency and justice. His public statements focused on the importance of truth over personal vendettas. The courtroom sessions became a roller coaster of emotions, moments of hope when new evidence supported Elon's case, followed by despair as Marcus's actions threatened to derail the process. Marcus himself was caught in a downward spiral, his arrogance turning to desperation. Behind closed doors, he struggled with the realization that his career and reputation were on the line. His family, once a source of strength, now watched helplessly as he faced public scrutiny and personal collapse. The emotional climax culminated in a dramatic hearing where Marcus was formally charged with judicial misconduct. The courtroom was packed, reporters clamoring for every detail. Elon's legal team presented a compelling case, detailing Marcus's bias, conflicts of interest, and inappropriate conduct. Marcus's defense was a mix of defiance and vulnerability, pleading for understanding and redemption. The final moments of the hearing were charged with raw emotion. Marcus, once a symbol of judicial authority, appeared diminished, his arrogance replaced by a poignant regret. Elon, standing firm yet compassionate, spoke about the need for justice to be blind but also human. "We are all flawed," he said quietly. "But the law must serve truth and fairness above all." The judge's decision to remove Marcus from the case was met with mixed reactions. Relief among Elon's supporters and shock from those who had admired Marcus's tough reputation. The courtroom, once a stage for conflict, now became a space for reflection and resolution. The emotional climax revealed the complex interplay of justice and humanity, showing that even those in power are vulnerable to their own flaws. Elon emerged not just as a victor in court but as a figure who understood the weight of leadership and sacrifice. The chapter closed with a powerful message: true justice requires courage, not just to fight external battles but to confront the shadows within ourselves. The courthouse had quieted, the storm of the trial settling into a calm that felt almost surreal. Marcus Delroy's removal from the bench marked the end of an era, a downfall steeped in arrogance and personal vendettas. Yet for Elon Musk, this was not just a legal victory, it was a profound turning point in his journey. The courtroom drama that had captivated millions had finally reached its resolution, but the lessons it left behind resonated far deeper than any verdict. Elon stepped out of the courthouse into the blinding sunlight, the weight of the past months lifting from his shoulders. His team, supporters, and even some skeptics watched as he paused to reflect, a rare moment of humility crossing his face. The trial had exposed raw truths about power, justice, and the fragile nature of reputation. Elon knew that winning the case was only part of the battle. Rebuilding trust, healing wounds, and pushing forward with his vision were the challenges that lay ahead. His companies, from Tesla to SpaceX, had endured not just legal attacks but also public scrutiny that threatened to derail years of progress. Now, with the court's vindication, Elon felt a renewed sense of purpose. He addressed the gathered press, his voice steady but warm. "This experience has taught me that resilience is about more than enduring hardship," he said. "It's about learning, growing, and never losing sight of what truly matters: innovation, integrity, and the people who believe in us." Behind the scenes, Elon reconnected with family and close friends, many of whom had worried deeply during the trial's darkest moments. The support network that had sustained him was stronger than ever, reminding him that even the most visionary leaders need human connection to thrive. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy faced a different kind of reckoning. Removed from the case and under investigation, he found himself isolated from the legal community and battling the consequences of his actions. Yet, in his solitude, Marcus began a painful but necessary process of reflection. He revisited memories of his daughter, his estranged relationships, and the choices that had shaped his life. Slowly, the arrogance that once shielded him gave way to vulnerability and remorse. Marcus reached out for therapy, seeking to understand the anger and bitterness that had driven him to such extremes. Though his career might never recover, he hoped to find peace within himself, a resolution that no courtroom ruling could grant. The trial had been a crucible for both men, exposing not only their strengths but their deepest flaws. Elon's growth was evident in his renewed commitment to leadership tempered by empathy. Marcus's journey was one of redemption and acceptance, a testament to the complexity of human nature. The story that had begun with a harsh insult in court ended with an unexpected harmony, a reminder that even conflict can lead to understanding. The public reaction to the trial's conclusion was mixed but thoughtful. Many praised Elon for his perseverance and grace under pressure. Others expressed sympathy for Marcus, acknowledging the difficult pressures judges face. The broader conversation sparked by the case focused on the need for judicial reform, transparency, and accountability. Elon used this momentum to advocate for change, speaking publicly about the importance of fairness and ethics in all institutions. His message was clear: progress depends not only on innovation but on integrity and trust. In the months that followed, Elon's companies surged ahead. New breakthroughs in renewable energy, space exploration, and artificial intelligence captured the world's imagination. The trial's shadow faded as Elon's vision took center stage, inspiring a new generation of dreamers and doers. The experience also deepened Elon's appreciation for the people behind the headlines: his team, family, and even his critics who challenged him to be better. This chapter in his life had forged a stronger, wiser leader. Looking back, Elon reflected on the question that had opened the story: what if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? He realized that losing was never truly losing when you carried lessons, hope, and the support of those who believe in you. This story had sparked a new beginning, not just for Elon but for everyone who followed his journey. It was a testament to the power of resilience, the importance of compassion, and the enduring truth that love, whether for family, mission, or self, would always lead the way. The dust had barely settled from the courtroom drama when Elon Musk found himself facing a different kind of challenge, a challenge that no legal victory could fully prepare him for. As his companies began to rebound and the public narrative shifted in his favor, whispers of new threats and hidden agendas started to surface. Victory in court did not mean peace, it merely opened the door to the next phase of a relentless battle. Elon was no stranger to controversy. His life had been defined by pushing boundaries, from launching rockets to reinventing the automobile industry. Yet the recent trial had taught him that innovation alone was never enough. Trust had to be earned and maintained, and enemies lurked in unexpected places. One evening, after a long day at Tesla headquarters, Elon sat alone in his office staring out at the city skyline. The glow of streetlights shimmered through the window, but his mind was far from calm. Reports from his security team indicated unusual activity, emails hinting at corporate espionage, anonymous threats, and a new wave of lawsuits brewing behind the scenes. It was as if the courtroom battle had only been the opening salvo in a war he was destined to fight indefinitely. Despite the fatigue, a familiar spark ignited within him. Elon's resilience was forged not in moments of ease but in the crucible of adversity. He knew that retreat was not an option. With a steely determination, he called a meeting with his closest advisors and legal team. The room was filled with tension and urgency as they strategized ways to protect the company's innovations and reputation. Elon listened carefully, valuing every voice, but he remained a visionary, always looking ahead, imagining possibilities others could not see. Meanwhile, the fallout from Marcus Delroy's removal rippled through the judicial system. Colleagues debated the implications of his conduct, some sympathizing with the pressures he faced, others demanding reforms to prevent such abuses of power in the future. Marcus himself had become a cautionary tale, a reminder that pride and unresolved pain could lead even the most powerful astray. But while Marcus grappled with his downfall, another figure stepped into the spotlight, a newly appointed judge tasked with overseeing the ongoing legal matters related to Elon's companies. Judge Karen Whitman was known for her impeccable integrity and calm demeanor. Unlike Marcus, she approached the bench with humility and a genuine commitment to fairness. Elon welcomed the change cautiously. Trust had to be rebuilt, brick by brick. In her first courtroom appearance, Judge Whitman set a tone of professionalism and respect. She encouraged open dialogue and made it clear that justice would be served without prejudice. This fresh approach provided a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Yet challenges persisted. New lawsuits filed by rival companies and disgruntled former employees threatened to entangle Elon's ventures in endless legal battles. Each case required meticulous attention, draining resources and energy. Elon found himself navigating a labyrinth of corporate intrigue, media scrutiny, and personal doubt. At times, the weight felt overwhelming. But amidst the turmoil, moments of clarity and inspiration emerged. Elon reconnected with his passion for space exploration, channeling his energy into SpaceX's ambitious plans for Mars colonization. The vision of humanity reaching beyond Earth became a beacon, reminding him why the fight was worth it. Friends and family rallied around him, providing the emotional support that no courtroom victory could replace. His relationship with his longtime partner deepened, grounded in shared values and unwavering support. These bonds became a sanctuary from the storms raging outside. As the months passed, Elon's leadership evolved. He embraced a more collaborative style, listening to critics and allies alike. He learned to balance bold ambition with measured caution, understanding that true innovation required both risk and responsibility. Public perception shifted again, from seeing him as a controversial figure to recognizing him as a resilient leader shaped by trial and transformation. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's journey took unexpected turns. Therapy and reflection opened new paths toward healing. He began speaking publicly about the dangers of unchecked pride and the importance of emotional intelligence in leadership. Though his reputation remained tarnished, his willingness to confront his flaws earned a degree of respect. The story that began with courtroom conflict was now about redemption, growth, and the complex humanity behind the headlines. One evening, Elon sat down with Judge Whitman for a private conversation, a rare moment beyond the public eye. They spoke candidly about justice, responsibility, and the future of innovation. Judge Whitman expressed her hopes for a legal system that could support progress while protecting fairness. Elon shared his vision for a world transformed by technology but rooted in empathy. Their dialogue underscored the story's deeper themes, that conflict could lead to understanding, and that even the most unlikely alliances could foster change. As the chapter closed, Elon gazed up at the stars, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The road ahead was uncertain, filled with new challenges and opportunities. But armed with hard-won wisdom, trusted relationships, and an unshakable vision, he was ready to face whatever came next. The journey of resilience, transformation, and hope was far from over, it was just beginning. Despite the courtroom battles behind him, Elon Musk found himself at the precipice of another storm, one that threatened not just his companies, but his very vision for the future. The new wave of lawsuits, corporate sabotage attempts, and media scrutiny had begun to pile up like a gathering thundercloud, ominous and relentless. It was clear this fight would test more than his legal team, it would challenge his resilience and strategic acumen like never before. Early one morning, Elon sat in the stark conference room of SpaceX headquarters, the hum of the city outside barely audible. His executive team gathered around the sleek, glass table, faces tight with concern. Reports had come in overnight, an insider leak had exposed sensitive engineering data to a rival company. The implications were severe. Years of innovation risked being derailed by corporate espionage. Elon's jaw tightened as he absorbed the news. The trail of sabotage wasn't random, it was coordinated, targeted, and sophisticated. Someone was determined to stop him, no matter the cost. The executive director, Maria Gonzalez, spoke up, her voice steady but urgent. "We've identified suspicious activity within our cybersecurity network. We believe this leak originated from a trusted source." Elon nodded grimly. Trust, the cornerstone of any successful venture, was becoming a scarce commodity. The team quickly moved to implement heightened security protocols, but Elon knew that technical fixes alone wouldn't suffice. The battle was as much psychological as it was technological. Meanwhile, the media frenzy intensified. Sensational headlines speculated wildly, some accusing Elon of orchestrating distractions to cover other failures. The pressure was relentless. Yet Elon remained outwardly composed, channeling his frustration into action. He convened a strategy session with his legal advisors to prepare for the growing wave of lawsuits. The opponents were diverse, former partners, disgruntled employees, and even regulatory agencies probing every aspect of his businesses. Each suit, while different in detail, carried the common thread of an attempt to stall or dismantle his ambitions. It was clear that the fight was no longer just about Tesla or SpaceX, it was about the very idea of progress itself. The courtroom was evolving into a theater of power plays and hidden agendas. Elon's mind raced through scenarios, weighing risks and contingencies. He knew that any misstep could lead to devastating setbacks. But retreat was not an option. His vision for humanity's future depended on pushing forward, no matter the obstacles. In the midst of this mounting tension, a new ally emerged. Judge Karen Whitman, presiding over some of the related cases, proved to be a steady force of fairness and clarity. Her calm presence contrasted sharply with Marcus Delroy's volatile legacy. Elon found himself cautiously optimistic, sensing that justice might yet prevail through her leadership. Their brief conversations, both inside and outside the courtroom, hinted at a shared understanding of the stakes involved. But trust was fragile, and Elon remained vigilant. As the legal battles unfolded, cracks appeared within Elon's inner circle. The relentless pressure exposed fissures in relationships once thought unbreakable. A key executive resigned unexpectedly, citing burnout and disillusionment. Elon grappled with feelings of betrayal and loneliness, even as he publicly maintained an image of strength. The personal cost of leadership was becoming painfully clear. Late one night, in the solitude of his office, Elon reflected on the opening question that had haunted his journey: what if you suddenly lost everything and had no one by your side? The thought was both terrifying and galvanizing. He realized that true resilience wasn't just about weathering external storms, but about finding inner strength and building genuine connections. The trial and its aftermath had changed him profoundly. No longer just the brash visionary, Elon was evolving into a leader tempered by hardship and empathy. The chapter reached its climax when a surprise announcement shook the industry. A former close ally publicly turned against Elon, accusing him of unethical practices. The revelation sent shockwaves through the business world, sparking debates and threatening to erode public trust. Elon faced the betrayal with a mixture of shock and resolve. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with further challenges, but he refused to be derailed. The rising storm was not just a test of legal prowess, but of character. Elon's journey was becoming a crucible of transformation, where hope and adversity intertwined. As the chapter closed, Elon stood at the edge of uncertainty, eyes fixed on the horizon. The battle was far from over, but with every challenge, he was growing stronger, wiser, and more determined. The future, though clouded with doubt, still held the promise of breakthrough and renewal. The fallout from the public betrayal hit Elon Musk like a shockwave. The former ally, once a trusted confidant and key partner in several ventures, had gone on record with accusations that shook the foundation of Elon's reputation. Headlines screamed of scandal, ethical lapses, and a culture of recklessness. Investors hesitated, and some board members demanded explanations. Elon found himself thrust into the eye of a media hurricane. The betrayal cut deep, not just professionally but personally. The former ally, Jason Bennett, had been more than a business partner. They had shared long hours, late-night strategy sessions, and the unyielding belief in changing the world. To hear him now condemn Elon's ethics felt like a knife twisting in old wounds. But Elon knew the battle had to be fought on multiple fronts: legal, public opinion, and internal morale. He summoned his crisis management team immediately. "We need a clear, transparent response," he said, voice calm but resolute. "The truth has to come out, no matter what." The team worked around the clock crafting statements, coordinating interviews, and preparing for the inevitable lawsuits. Elon himself took to social media, addressing the public directly. His posts balanced acknowledgement of mistakes with a firm defense of his vision and integrity. "We're human. We stumble. But our mission is larger than any one person," he wrote. The public's reaction was mixed. Some rallied behind him, admiring his openness; others remained skeptical, influenced by the allegations. Meanwhile, the board of directors convened an emergency meeting to assess the situation. Elon faced pointed questions about leadership, decision-making, and the culture within his companies. The pressure was intense. Yet Elon refused to back down or deflect blame. Instead, he outlined concrete steps to improve transparency, strengthen oversight, and foster a healthier work environment. It was a pivotal moment, one that revealed his growth from a brash entrepreneur into a reflective leader willing to confront uncomfortable truths. At the same time, the legal battles intensified. Jason Bennett's accusations were backed by a slew of documents and testimonies from former employees who claimed they had been pressured to overlook safety protocols and ethical concerns. Elon's lawyers countered aggressively, highlighting inconsistencies and ulterior motives. The courtroom became a battleground not only for facts but for reputations. The tension was palpable. Amidst the chaos, Elon sought refuge in the familiar, the vision that had always driven him forward. SpaceX's Mars project, once a dream overshadowed by legal woes, now became a source of renewed inspiration. Late nights spent reviewing mission plans and speaking with engineers reminded him of the purpose behind the struggle. The personal toll, however, was undeniable. Elon's relationship with his partner was tested by the unrelenting stress. They navigated arguments fueled by exhaustion and frustration but ultimately found strength in their shared commitment. Friends and family rallied around him, offering support and grounding him in moments of doubt. This chapter also explored the contrasting journey of Marcus Delroy. Though removed from the bench, Marcus had not disappeared from public life. He embarked on a path of redemption, speaking openly about his failures and the emotional wounds that had clouded his judgment. His talks about vulnerability and accountability resonated with some, sparking conversations about the human side of power. Yet, Marcus's past actions continued to haunt him. The Judicial Oversight Committee's investigation revealed a web of misconduct, and Marcus faced sanctions that would end his career. His fall from grace served as a sobering counterpoint to Elon's turbulent rise. As the trial against Elon's companies dragged on, new evidence emerged suggesting that the sabotage and legal attacks were part of a coordinated effort by rival corporations threatened by his innovations. This revelation shifted the narrative once again. Elon's team leveraged the information to expose the broader conspiracy, casting the legal battles in a new light. The chapter ended on a note of cautious optimism. Though the storm still raged, Elon's resilience shone through. His journey was no longer just about winning cases or proving critics wrong. It was about leading with integrity, embracing vulnerability, and inspiring change despite the chaos. The fight was far from over, but Elon had learned that true strength came not from avoiding failure but from facing it head-on, with courage and humility. As the new evidence surfaced, Elon Musk's legal team gained unexpected momentum. The revelation that rival corporations had orchestrated sabotage and legal assaults against him added a dramatic twist to an already complex battle. The corporate world, once sharply divided in opinion, began to pay closer attention, not just to the lawsuits but to the larger stakes at play. Elon found himself at the center of a growing movement advocating for innovation free from the shackles of entrenched interests. The courtroom where Judge Karen Whitman presided became a stage for this larger war between progress and preservation. Whitman's judicious handling of the case brought renewed respect from the public and helped shift the narrative from personal vendettas to systemic challenges. Elon's trust in her grew, and occasional private conversations revealed shared hopes for a future where justice and innovation could coexist. But the tide was not turning without resistance. Powerful rivals dug in their heels, launching new attacks designed to slow down Tesla's latest battery breakthroughs and SpaceX's Mars mission timetable. Cyber attacks aimed at disrupting production lines forced Elon's engineers into 24-hour crisis mode. Every victory seemed to invite a fresh wave of challenges, testing the limits of his endurance and his team's loyalty. The pressure on Elon's personal life intensified. The stress and public scrutiny seeped into his home, straining relationships. He grappled with moments of doubt and exhaustion, questioning if the sacrifices were worth the cost. Yet the vision of a better future, clean energy, space colonization, and human advancement, remained his anchor. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Elon stood on the rooftop of his home, staring at the stars above. The vastness of space, once an abstract dream, now felt like a tangible destination. His mind wandered to the astronauts he hoped to send to Mars, to the children who might one day grow up on another planet. This vision renewed his determination. Back in the courtroom, the legal battles reached a crescendo. Witnesses took the stand, some former employees and insiders whose testimonies exposed the calculated efforts to undermine Elon's enterprises. The courtroom drama captivated the nation, blending the intensity of legal conflict with the intrigue of corporate espionage. Elon watched carefully, feeling the emotional weight of every word. The climax of the trial approached when a key whistleblower stepped forward, revealing details that confirmed the conspiracy beyond doubt. This revelation stunned the courtroom and media alike, delivering a powerful blow to Elon's opponents. But even in victory, Elon remained cautious. He understood that the fight for progress was ongoing, that new challenges would emerge as long as innovation disrupted the status quo. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's story took a quieter, yet no less profound, turn. Having faced professional ruin, Marcus immersed himself in community service and advocacy for judicial reform. His public talks emphasized the need for empathy and accountability in positions of power. Though many remained skeptical, some found his transformation inspiring. The contrast between Elon's relentless forward drive and Marcus's introspective healing underscored the complexity of human experience. As the chapter closed, Elon prepared for the next phase of his journey. With renewed support, clearer vision, and a tempered spirit, he was ready to lead not just his companies, but a movement towards a future defined by resilience, integrity, and bold ambition. The tides had turned, but the ocean of challenges stretched wide and deep. Elon's journey was far from over. It was evolving into a saga of courage and hope that would inspire generations. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the trial entered a crucial phase. Elon Musk stood at a crossroads. Not just legally but personally. The relentless assaults on his character and companies had exposed vulnerabilities he had long kept hidden. Trust, once taken for granted, was now a fragile thread weaving through every interaction. Judge Karen Whitman's courtroom had become a battleground where not only facts but hearts and minds were on trial. The weight of public expectation pressed heavily on Elon's shoulders. Early that morning, as he prepared to face the courtroom once again, he found himself reflecting on the delicate balance between transparency and privacy. He knew the public craved answers, yet some truths were complicated, tangled in layers of business strategy and personal sacrifice. The trial's focus had shifted to internal whistleblowers, employees who had chosen to speak out amidst the turmoil. Their testimonies were a double-edged sword, shedding light on genuine concerns but also weaponized by Elon's opponents to question his leadership. In the quiet moments before proceedings began, Elon met briefly with Judge Whitman. Their eyes met across the room, an unspoken acknowledgement passing between them. He respected her impartiality and fairness, and she recognized the complexity of the man behind the headlines. In court, Elon's defense team worked tirelessly to dismantle the narrative spun by rivals. Every accusation was met with evidence of innovation, ethics, and a relentless pursuit of progress. Yet the emotional toll was evident. At times, Elon's voice cracked, revealing the human behind the public figure. Outside the courtroom, the media frenzy continued. Social media was ablaze with debates, memes, and heated opinions. Some painted Elon as a visionary hero, others as a reckless titan. The polarized landscape was a reflection of deeper societal divisions over technology, ethics, and power. At home, Elon struggled to shield his loved ones from the storm. His partner, ever steady, became his confidant and anchor. Their conversations, sometimes fraught with tension, also offered moments of tenderness and grounding. It was a reminder that amidst public battles, private resilience was equally vital. The chapter also delved into Elon's psychological landscape, flashbacks to childhood challenges, moments of isolation, and the early dreams that shaped him. These glimpses provided a richer understanding of the man who dared to challenge the impossible. Meanwhile, the corporate battlefield intensified. Rivals ramped up their legal maneuvers, launching parallel investigations and media campaigns. Elon's companies faced regulatory scrutiny, forcing rapid adjustments and strategic pivots. The fight was no longer confined to the courtroom, it was a multi-front war. Yet in the midst of chaos, breakthroughs emerged. Tesla unveiled a groundbreaking battery technology that promised to revolutionize energy storage. SpaceX successfully tested a prototype spacecraft designed for long-duration missions. These victories, though hard-won, reminded Elon and his supporters why the fight mattered. The chapter reached its emotional climax during a pivotal courtroom exchange. Elon, called to testify, spoke candidly about his vision, fears, and the sacrifices demanded by innovation. His words resonated deeply, cutting through cynicism and skepticism. For a moment, the courtroom held its breath, witnessing not just a trial but a man revealing his soul. As the proceedings adjourned for the day, Elon stepped outside into the warm afternoon sun. Reporters swarmed, but instead of deflecting, he answered with honesty and hope. Innovation isn't easy. It requires risk, failure, and persistence. I'm here because I believe in a better future, for all of us. The chapter closed on this note of resilience and resolve. Elon stood at a crossroads, battered but unbroken, ready to navigate the uncertain path ahead. Trust was fragile, but not lost. The journey toward justice, progress, and personal growth continued, fueled by courage and a vision that refused to fade. The courtroom lights seemed harsher than usual as Elon Musk prepared to take the stand once more. The air was thick with tension, every gaze fixed on him, waiting for the moment he would speak. But this battle was unlike the ones before. It was no longer just about facts and evidence, it was about the unseen fight within himself, the struggle to maintain hope amid relentless pressure and growing isolation. As he sat quietly before the proceedings began, his thoughts drifted to the countless nights spent pacing in the quiet corners of his office, wrestling with doubt. The betrayals, the public scrutiny, the legal challenges, they all weighed heavily. Yet, there was a flicker of determination that refused to be extinguished. The testimonies that day unveiled new layers of complexity. Former employees recounted not only workplace grievances but moments of inspiration, innovation born from collaboration and relentless dedication. These stories painted a more nuanced picture of the empire Elon had built, flawed, human, yet undeniably visionary. Outside the courtroom, supporters gathered in small groups, their voices a mix of hope and defiance. Social media campaigns rallied behind Elon, with hashtags like #InnovateWithElon and #JusticeForProgress trending across platforms. The public discourse reflected a nation divided, between skepticism and belief, fear and aspiration. In these moments, Elon found unexpected solace. The battle was bigger than him, it was about the future itself. At home, the pressure seeped into quiet moments. His partner noticed the growing weariness in his eyes and gently urged him to find balance. "You don't have to carry it all alone," she reminded him one evening. Their conversations became a sanctuary, spaces where Elon could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. These glimpses into his private life revealed a man striving to reconcile ambition with humanity. Meanwhile, the corporate warfare escalated. Rivals unleashed aggressive campaigns, blending legal tactics with public relations assaults designed to erode trust. Elon's teams worked tirelessly to counter misinformation and protect critical projects. The stakes had never been higher. Yet, amidst the chaos, breakthroughs continued. Tesla's new battery cells demonstrated unprecedented efficiency, promising to redefine electric vehicles. SpaceX's prototypes showed progress toward sustainable interplanetary travel. Each success was a beacon of hope, reminders of what was at stake. The courtroom drama reached a turning point when a surprise witness emerged, an anonymous whistleblower who provided key evidence linking the sabotage attempts directly to a coalition of competitors. The revelation sent shockwaves through the legal teams and media alike. For Elon, it was vindication but also a stark reminder of the lengths adversaries would go to thwart progress. The emotional climax of the chapter unfolded during Elon's cross-examination. The opposing counsel pressed hard, questioning motives and decisions. Elon responded with a rare openness, acknowledging mistakes but emphasizing vision and resilience. His words resonated with many in the courtroom and beyond, humanizing the titan often portrayed as untouchable. As the day concluded, Elon stepped outside into the fading light, the city skyline stretching before him like a vast promise. The battle was far from over, but his resolve had deepened. The unseen fight, within courts, corporations, and himself, was shaping a leader ready to face whatever came next. The chapter closed with a quiet moment of reflection, a reminder that behind every public figure lies a private story of struggle, hope, and relentless pursuit of a dream. The weight of relentless scrutiny began to crack the carefully maintained armor Elon Musk wore. Days bled into nights filled with meetings, legal briefs, and endless press questions. The courtroom drama was no longer contained within four walls, it spilled into every aspect of his life. His mind raced constantly, juggling strategies, responding to attacks, and managing the ever-present question. How much more could he endure? At a high-profile press conference, Elon faced a barrage of questions. The tension in the room was palpable as reporters pressed him on everything, from the latest lawsuit developments to his personal life. His answers were measured but tinged with fatigue. Behind the polished facade, exhaustion gnawed at him. As cameras flashed and microphones recorded, Elon's gaze briefly flickered to the crowd. Somewhere among them was the pulse of a nation divided, some rooting for his downfall, others hoping he would persevere. The personal toll was undeniable. His relationship, once a source of strength, showed signs of strain. Late-night arguments replaced quiet conversations, the pressure squeezing out moments of tenderness. Elon wrestled with guilt, caught between his relentless drive and the fragile bonds around him. In the midst of this turmoil, a new challenge arose. A whistleblower within Tesla revealed safety concerns that could no longer be ignored. The news hit like a bombshell. For Elon, it was a devastating blow to his reputation and mission. He faced a choice: deny and risk credibility, or confront the issue head-on and rebuild trust. Choosing the latter, Elon called an emergency meeting. Transparency became the order of the day. Safety audits were launched, protocols revised, and public statements issued. It was a moment of reckoning, exposing flaws but also a commitment to accountability. The legal battles raged on. Opponents seized upon the revelations, intensifying their attacks. But Elon's defense adapted, leveraging honesty as a weapon against cynicism. The courtroom scenes grew more charged, with witnesses debating fiercely and emotions running high. The chapter also explored Marcus Delroy's perspective in this breaking moment. Having witnessed the downfall of his own career, Marcus observed Elon's struggles with a mix of sympathy and regret. His public apologies and community work contrasted sharply with the harsh realities Elon faced. Their stories intertwined in unexpected ways, two men shaped by power, mistakes, and the quest for redemption. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Elon found himself alone on the rooftop of his home, staring at the stars. The vast sky seemed both comforting and overwhelming. He thought of the journeys he still hoped to make to Mars, the innovations waiting to change the world. Yet the path was clouded by doubt and weariness. In that quiet moment, Elon confronted his own vulnerability. It was a breaking point, not a surrender, but a chance to recalibrate. The chapter closed with a sense of fragile hope. Despite the mounting pressures and setbacks, Elon's vision endured. The journey ahead would demand even greater resilience, wisdom, and courage. But the fight was far from over. The breaking point was a crucible forging a new kind of leader, one who understood that true strength comes from embracing imperfection and facing adversity with honesty. The trial had reached a fever pitch, and in the charged atmosphere of the courtroom, Elon Musk sensed something shifting beneath the surface. After months of relentless scrutiny, legal wrangling, and public spectacle, the tides of opinion were starting to turn. The turning point came unexpectedly during a testimony that pierced through the fog of accusations and doubt. A key engineer from Tesla, long loyal but cautious, stepped forward with a candid account of the innovations and sacrifices that had defined their work. Her voice was steady, her words laced with pride and honesty. She spoke of sleepless nights spent perfecting the battery technology, the fierce dedication of the team, and the hurdles overcome with grit and determination. The courtroom, usually cold and procedural, felt alive with raw human emotion. Elon watched quietly, the weight on his chest lightening just enough to breathe. Outside, the media narrative began to shift. Headlines that once questioned his integrity now highlighted the breakthrough achievements and the relentless pursuit of progress in the face of adversity. Public sentiment was no longer divided but leaning toward cautious admiration. Behind the scenes, Elon's legal team seized the moment, pushing for a settlement that could protect the companies while addressing the remaining concerns. Negotiations were tense but marked by a new spirit of cooperation. Elon himself stepped back into the spotlight with a renewed sense of purpose. His public addresses took on a tone of humility and hope, acknowledging past mistakes but reaffirming the vision that had always driven him. Yet, the road to redemption was not without its obstacles. The corporate rivals remained fierce, their strategies evolving as they sought to reclaim lost ground. Cybersecurity threats intensified, and regulatory challenges grew more complex. Elon found himself navigating a labyrinth of competing interests, each demanding attention and resources. On the personal front, the strain of the past months began to ease but did not disappear. His relationship, battered but intact, showed signs of healing. The couple took time away from the spotlight, seeking refuge in quiet moments and simple joys. It was a reminder that amidst the chaos, life still held pockets of peace. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's journey continued on a different but equally compelling path. Having accepted the consequences of his actions, Marcus worked tirelessly to rebuild his reputation through advocacy and mentorship. His talks on judicial reform and the humanization of power resonated with many, sparking dialogue in unexpected places. The contrast between Elon's forward-looking battle and Marcus's reflective redemption added depth to the unfolding narrative. The chapter culminated in a dramatic court session where the settlement terms were unveiled. The agreement included increased transparency measures, safety protocols, and commitments to innovation with accountability. The courtroom erupted in a mixture of relief and cautious optimism. Elon's speech afterward was brief but powerful. He spoke not as a victor, but as a learner, someone shaped by trials and ready to move forward with renewed clarity. As he left the courthouse, a crowd gathered, some cheering, others still skeptical, but all bearing witness to a pivotal moment in a saga that had captivated a nation. The chapter closed with a quiet reflection on the nature of resilience. Elon's turning point was not the end of the fight, but a new beginning, one forged in the fires of adversity and tempered by the lessons of experience. The journey ahead promised new challenges, but also the possibility of lasting change, both personal and global. The courtroom had settled into a wary calm, but behind the scenes, the shadows of the past lurked just beyond the edges of the spotlight. Elon Musk, despite the recent settlement and the shift in public opinion, knew that the battle was far from over. The world watched, hopeful yet cautious, as he navigated the delicate line between innovation and accountability. New challenges emerged like specters, threatening to unravel the fragile progress. Among them was a growing investigation into the origins of the sabotage attempts. Anonymous sources hinted at deeper conspiracies, involving not only corporate rivals but factions within government agencies and international interests. Elon's team worked tirelessly to trace the threads of these hidden networks, uncovering a web of deceit that complicated the legal landscape. The stakes had escalated beyond the courtroom drama into a high-stakes game of espionage and power. The emotional toll was undeniable. Elon found himself grappling with trust, whom to believe, whom to protect. The paranoia that comes with being a target began to seep into his waking thoughts and dreams. Yet, in this darkness, moments of light shone through. His closest allies stood steadfast, their loyalty unwavering. In quiet conversations, they reminded Elon of the larger mission and the progress achieved against daunting odds. These connections, fragile yet vital, provided the emotional sustenance he needed to keep pushing forward. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's redemption arc deepened. He had become an unlikely advocate for transparency and reform within the judiciary, using his own story as a cautionary tale. His public appearances drew mixed reactions, but many found inspiration in his willingness to confront his flaws. Marcus and Elon's paths, once starkly opposed, now seemed to parallel in surprising ways, both men confronting their demons and striving for a higher purpose. The personal stakes also came into focus. Elon's relationship weathered its share of storms, but moments of genuine connection began to rebuild what had been strained. Shared dreams, quiet dinners away from the press, and small gestures of kindness reminded Elon of the life beyond the headlines. The chapter painted vivid scenes of these private moments, intimate and grounding, against the backdrop of public chaos. On the technological front, breakthroughs continued to unfold. Tesla's new energy solutions promised to accelerate the shift to renewable power globally. SpaceX's advancements brought humanity closer to Mars, turning science fiction into imminent reality. These achievements rekindled public excitement and hope, even as challenges persisted. The courtroom itself remained a crucible. New testimonies, unexpected evidence, and legal maneuvers kept the drama alive. Elon's legal team adapted quickly, balancing defense with proactive measures to expose the deeper conspiracies at play. The emotional climax of the chapter occurred during a late-night meeting with Judge Karen Whitman. In the quiet of her chambers, away from the public eye, they shared a moment of mutual respect and understanding. Their conversation touched on the nature of justice, power, and redemption, unspoken bonds formed through shared trials. As the chapter drew to a close, Elon stood once more on the rooftop, gazing at the stars that had long been his beacon. The shadows and light of his journey intertwined, shaping a man transformed by struggle yet undeterred in vision. The path ahead remained uncertain, but the fight for innovation, truth, and justice was far from over. In this interplay of darkness and hope, Elon found the resilience to face whatever came next, knowing that the future was still being written, and he was determined to be its author. The courtroom was silent except for the soft shuffle of papers and the occasional murmur from the gallery. Elon Musk sat, composed yet alert, feeling the weight of every gaze fixed upon him. This chapter in the trial felt different. He was no longer just defending his company's or reputation, he was confronting the echoes of his own past. The arrival of a new witness, a childhood friend turned whistleblower, brought a wave of unexpected emotion. This friend, Sarah Matthews, spoke not only of Elon's early ambitions but of mistakes and misjudgments that had shaped him, both as a visionary and as a flawed man. Her testimony was a complex tapestry, weaving praise for Elon's brilliance with harsh critiques of his sometimes reckless drive. The courtroom audience was captivated by this glimpse into Elon's formative years, the relentless curiosity, the occasional disregard for boundaries, and the fierce independence that had propelled him forward. These revelations stirred a mix of empathy and skepticism among those listening. Outside the courthouse, the media seized upon Sarah's words, framing the story as one of redemption and reckoning. Social media exploded with debates about the nature of genius and the cost of innovation. Some praised Elon's relentless pursuit of progress, others questioned whether the ends justified the means. Elon's personal world felt the tremors of this new exposure. Conversations with his partner grew more reflective, touching on themes of forgiveness and growth. Elon himself grappled with the complex emotions stirred by Sarah's testimony, gratitude for her honesty, regret for past missteps, and renewed determination to make amends where possible. Meanwhile, the legal battle intensified as opposing counsel leveraged Sarah's testimony to challenge Elon's decision-making and leadership. The courtroom drama reached new heights of tension, with emotional exchanges and unexpected alliances forming among the witnesses. The chapter also shed light on Marcus Delroy's journey. He watched the trial from a distance, reflecting on his own fall from grace and the parallels with Elon's struggles. Marcus reached out in an unexpected gesture of solidarity, offering advice drawn from his hard-earned experience. Their correspondence became a quiet undercurrent in the story, a meeting of minds shaped by power, failure, and hope for redemption. On the technological front, Tesla and SpaceX continued to push boundaries despite the turmoil. A breakthrough in autonomous vehicle technology promised to revolutionize transportation, while SpaceX prepared for a critical test flight that could redefine space exploration. These advancements served as a reminder of the stakes involved and the transformative potential of Elon's vision. The chapter's emotional climax came during a poignant moment when Elon, asked about his past decisions, spoke candidly about the lessons learned from failure and the importance of resilience. His words resonated deeply, cutting through the courtroom's formality and touching the hearts of those present. As the day ended, Elon retreated to a quiet space within the courthouse, reflecting on the echoes of his past and the path ahead. The trial was more than a legal battle, it was a journey of self-discovery and growth. The chapter closed with a powerful message: the past may echo loudly, but it does not have to define the future. In the interplay of memory and hope, Elon found the strength to move forward, committed to building a legacy that honored both innovation and integrity. The tension in the courtroom was almost palpable as Elon Musk prepared to face yet another grueling day of testimony. The trial, once a fierce battle of accusations and defenses, was evolving into a complex exploration of relationships, regrets, and the fragile human connections often overlooked in the shadow of corporate drama. Today's focus was on fractures, both personal and professional, that had widened beneath the surface of Elon's carefully constructed empire. The first witness to take the stand was a former close associate, someone who had once shared Elon's vision but had grown disillusioned over time. Their testimony was laced with bitterness, recounting moments of conflict, missed opportunities, and broken trust. Yet amid the grievances was a hint of yearning for reconciliation, a desire to be heard and understood beyond the legal jargon. Elon listened, absorbing the words with a mixture of remorse and resolve. This wasn't just a trial about business, it was a reckoning with the cost of ambition. Outside the courtroom, the story rippled through social circles and media outlets. Commentators debated the human side of the saga, exploring themes of forgiveness and the price of success. The public, often captivated by spectacle, found itself invited to consider the deeper questions of empathy and healing. Elon's personal life mirrored these fractures. The strain of the past months had taken a toll on his relationship, and conversations that once flowed easily now felt tentative and guarded. Yet, in moments of vulnerability, Elon and his partner began to confront the wounds that had formed, seeking pathways toward forgiveness and renewed connection. These scenes were painted with rich detail, the quiet exchange of apologies, the hesitant rebuilding of trust, the fragile hope that love could endure the storm. Meanwhile, the legal front saw new developments. Evidence emerged that complicated the narrative, suggesting that some adversaries were willing to go to extreme lengths to undermine Elon's ventures. Cyber attacks, smear campaigns, and covert operations revealed a shadow war beneath the visible courtroom drama. Elon's team responded with increased vigilance and strategic countermeasures, underscoring the high stakes at play. The chapter also delved into Marcus Delroy's continuing journey of redemption. He had begun speaking publicly about the importance of forgiveness and understanding injustice. His efforts sparked conversations within legal communities and beyond, bridging divides and offering a message of hope amid division. Unexpectedly, Marcus reached out to Elon, offering a tentative olive branch. Their dialogue, conducted with cautious respect, became a testament to the possibility of growth even in the aftermath of conflict. The emotional climax arrived during a pivotal court session where Elon addressed the fractures directly. He acknowledged mistakes, expressed genuine remorse, and outlined a vision for healing that extended beyond legal resolutions. His words struck a chord with many, transforming courtroom tension into a moment of shared humanity. As the chapter closed, Elon found solace in a quiet moment away from the public eye. Alone in his study, surrounded by mementos of past achievements and dreams yet to be realized, he reflected on the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability. The fractures that had threatened to break him were also teaching him the profound power of forgiveness, not just from others, but for himself. The chapter ended with a powerful message: true strength lies in embracing imperfection and opening the door to healing, even when the path is uncertain and fraught with risk. The trial had dragged on longer than anyone expected, each day layering fresh burdens onto Elon Musk's already heavy shoulders. As he sat in the courtroom that morning, his mind was a whirlwind of strategies, memories, and what-ifs. This was more than just a legal battle, it was a crossroads that could redefine his life, his legacy, and the future of his companies. The room was charged with anticipation. Today's session promised to be pivotal, featuring testimony from a new expert witness whose analysis could tip the scales. Elon's legal team prepared meticulously, knowing that this moment could either solidify their defense or unravel months of work. But beneath the tactical calculations, Elon wrestled with a deeper, more personal dilemma. The relentless scrutiny had forced him to confront the sacrifices he had made. Time with family and friends had grown scarce. The constant pressure had chipped away at his patience and resilience. Was the pursuit of innovation worth this cost? His gaze flickered to the courtroom's entrance, where supporters and critics alike had gathered. Some cheered silently, others whispered doubts, but all eyes were fixed on the man at the center of the storm. The expert witness took the stand, delivering a detailed analysis of Tesla's technology and the contested issues. Their testimony was nuanced, acknowledging flaws while emphasizing breakthroughs. The courtroom hung on every word, the balance of truth and critique casting a complex light over the case. Outside, the media frenzy reached a fever pitch. Headlines speculated about the implications, analysts debated the merits, and social media buzzed with polarized opinions. Elon, despite the chaos, found moments of clarity in private. Conversations with close confidants became lifelines, grounding him in the reality beyond headlines. In these exchanges, he expressed doubts, hopes, and the persistent drive to keep moving forward. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's path intersected with Elon's in unexpected ways. Having grown into a vocal advocate for judicial reform, Marcus found himself invited to forums and panels that challenged traditional views on justice and accountability. His journey from disgrace to redemption resonated widely, offering a counterpoint to Elon's high-profile fight. Their correspondence grew more frequent, marked by frank discussions about power, responsibility, and the possibility of change. As the day wore on, tensions in the courtroom escalated. Unexpected evidence surfaced, emails and documents that painted a complex picture of alliances, betrayals, and hidden agendas. Elon's legal team scrambled to adapt, while the opposing counsel pressed harder than ever. The emotional toll on Elon was immense. He felt the weight of not just defending himself, but protecting the vision that had driven him since youth. The chapter's climax came during a break in proceedings when Elon was approached by a young engineer from Tesla, someone whose dedication and belief in the mission reignited his own spark. Their brief conversation was a reminder of why the fight mattered, not just for him, but for the countless people depending on the future he sought to build. As the courtroom reconvened, Elon's resolve hardened. The crossroads was not just a moment of choice but a crucible forging a new path forward. The chapter closed with a quiet determination, a promise that regardless of outcome, the journey toward innovation, integrity, and impact would continue. Elon Musk was at a crossroads, and he was ready to choose the road less traveled, one that demanded courage, sacrifice, and unwavering vision. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with journalists, supporters, skeptics, and legal experts. Elon Musk sat quietly at the defense table, feeling the weight of countless eyes piercing through him like lasers. This was the breaking point, the moment when months of tension, sleepless nights, and endless battles would either culminate in vindication or collapse. The judge called the court to order, her voice steady but carrying the unspoken gravity of what was at stake. Elon's legal team was prepared for every scenario, but even they sensed the electric charge in the air. The morning's testimonies unfolded with sharp precision. Witnesses on both sides presented conflicting narratives, each weaving a story that painted Elon alternately as a visionary hero and a reckless disruptor. The courtroom felt like a battlefield, every argument a volley, every piece of evidence a weapon. As the hours dragged on, Elon's focus sharpened. He tuned out the noise, zeroing in on the facts, the strategy, and the bigger picture. But beneath the surface, an emotional storm churned. The breaking point wasn't just legal, it was personal. The relentless pressure was wearing on him, testing his resilience and resolve. Memories flashed, early days of struggle, moments of triumph, times when hope had seemed distant but never extinguished. The stakes were no longer abstract, they were visceral and immediate. Midway through the day, a dramatic twist sent shockwaves through the courtroom. An unexpected piece of evidence surfaced, a confidential memo revealing a covert plan by corporate rivals to sabotage Tesla's latest project. The revelation ignited a firestorm, shifting the narrative and providing Elon's team with a powerful new weapon. The courtroom buzzed with renewed energy as lawyers seized upon the memo to challenge the integrity of the opposition. The emotional climax arrived when Elon was called to the stand. Facing a barrage of pointed questions, he remained composed but candid. His testimony was more than legal defense, it was a statement of character, a declaration of the vision that had driven him and the sacrifices he had made. The judge listened intently, her demeanor unreadable but attentive. Outside, the public reaction was immediate and intense. Social media erupted with debates, supporters rallied behind Elon's courage, and critics scrutinized every word. The breaking point had become a defining moment not just in the trial, but in the public's perception of Elon Musk. As the day concluded, Elon retreated to a quiet room backstage, the adrenaline ebbing away to reveal the raw exhaustion beneath. He allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability, reflecting on how close he had come to losing everything, and how much he still had to fight for. The chapter closed with a powerful resolve. The breaking point had tested him, pushed him to his limits, but it had also revealed a deeper strength. Elon Musk was not just a man on trial, he was a force of nature, determined to shape the future on his own terms, no matter the cost. The courtroom was electric with anticipation as Elon Musk returned for what many predicted would be the turning point of the trial. The months of preparation, the late nights poring over documents, the heated debates and strategic maneuvers, all converged in this moment. Every face in the room seemed carved from stone, hardened by the gravity of what was unfolding. Elon felt the pressure not just from the case, but from the immense public gaze, the whispers and the roars that followed him like a shadow. Today, lines were being drawn, not just in legal arguments, but in the hearts and minds of everyone watching. The prosecution was relentless, weaving a narrative that questioned Elon's ethics and motives with surgical precision. Each accusation felt like a line etched deeper into the divide between supporter and skeptic. But Elon's defense was equally formidable, articulating a vision of innovation tempered by accountability, painting a portrait of a man driven by dreams, yes, but also by a commitment to justice and progress. The courtroom drama unfolded like a high-stakes chess match. Moves were calculated, countermoves anticipated, each exchange raising the stakes. The tension was palpable, the atmosphere thick with the weight of decisions yet to come. Outside, the media frenzy continued unabated. Commentators dissected every moment, social media exploded with fierce debates, and the public found itself polarized more than ever. Elon, however, remained focused on the core of the matter, his mission and the future he wanted to build. Personal stakes loomed large. Conversations with his partner grew more urgent, more honest. They grappled with the fractures exposed by the trial and the fragile hope for healing and unity. Elon's reflections revealed a man caught between the demands of a public fight and the yearning for private peace. Marcus Delroy's role in the unfolding saga became more complex. His own redemption journey intersected with Elon's fight in unexpected ways. Marcus had become a symbol of change within the judiciary, and his voice echoed in public discussions about fairness, power, and the possibility of transformation. The two men exchanged letters, their words probing the boundaries of forgiveness and accountability, respect and rivalry. The emotional climax of the chapter arrived during a tense courtroom exchange. Elon, confronted with a critical decision, chose transparency over defense, revealing previously withheld information that complicated his position but strengthened his moral standing. The courtroom reacted with stunned silence followed by murmurs of approval. The judge's expression remained unreadable, but the shift in energy was undeniable. As the day closed, Elon stood at a window overlooking the city skyline, the lights flickering like stars below. He pondered the lines drawn today, the divides that separated, the bridges that could still be built. The chapter ended with a quiet but firm resolve. In a world fractured by conflict, true leadership meant drawing lines that protected principles without severing humanity. Elon Musk was ready to redraw the boundaries, to find new paths forward where hope and justice could coexist. The courtroom felt heavier that morning, as if the air itself was charged with anticipation. Elon Musk walked in with a steely determination, aware that the tide was about to turn. The months of grueling litigation, public scrutiny, and emotional turmoil had brought him to a precipice. Today was more than just a day of testimony. It was a reckoning, a moment when the narrative could shift dramatically. The prosecution came armed with new evidence, their confidence palpable as they laid out a detailed timeline that sought to portray Elon as reckless and indifferent to consequences. But Elon's defense team was ready. They countered with meticulous facts, expert witnesses, and a compelling narrative that highlighted not only the risks Elon had taken but the vision that fueled his relentless pursuit. The courtroom drama unfolded like a tempest. Every argument was met with a sharp retort, every piece of evidence dissected with precision. The atmosphere was electric, each side pushing the other toward a breaking point. Elon felt the pressure, yet beneath it was a quiet calm, the calm of a man who had faced uncertainty before and emerged stronger. Outside the courtroom, public opinion began to shift. Social media buzzed with speculation, analysts debated the new revelations, and the public, hungry for resolution, watched closely. The narrative was evolving, and with it, Elon's place in the story. His personal life, however, was a delicate balance. Conversations with his partner grew deeper, tinged with both hope and caution. They grappled with the impact of the trial, the public scrutiny, and the emotional toll. Yet in those moments of vulnerability, their bond strengthened. Meanwhile, Marcus Delroy's journey took a surprising turn. His efforts to reform the judiciary gained traction, earning both praise and criticism. His evolving relationship with Elon added layers of complexity to the saga, former adversaries now cautiously allied by shared experience and a common desire for change. The emotional climax of the chapter came during a dramatic court session where Elon, faced with a critical question, chose to speak candidly about the personal cost of his journey, the sacrifices, the doubts, and the unwavering hope that kept him going. His words resonated deeply, breaking through the courtroom's formality and touching the hearts of those present. As the day drew to a close, Elon stood outside the courthouse, the setting sun casting long shadows across the city. The turning tide was clear, the battle was far from over, but momentum was shifting. The chapter closed on a note of cautious optimism, a recognition that in the crucible of adversity, new strengths could be forged. Elon Musk was ready to navigate the currents, steering toward a future shaped not just by innovation, but by resilience and renewed purpose. The courtroom had transformed into an arena where the battle lines were no longer just legal, but deeply personal. Elon Musk sat with a composed exterior, but inside, a storm brewed, a mixture of frustration, determination, and the heavy realization that the trial was beginning to unravel more than just his professional reputation. New evidence presented by the prosecution revealed inconsistencies in Elon's corporate decisions that had previously been overlooked. These revelations sent ripples through the courtroom, casting doubt on aspects of his leadership and decision-making. Elon's defense scrambled to respond, yet the atmosphere was charged with tension. Witnesses who had once been allies appeared uncertain, their testimonies wavering under the pressure of cross-examination. The unfolding drama highlighted the fragility of alliances in a high-stakes battle. Outside, the media frenzy intensified. Headlines screamed about cracks in Elon's empire, and public opinion shifted with alarming speed. Social media debates grew more heated, supporters rallying to defend him, detractors seizing the moment to question everything. Elon felt the weight of this public scrutiny as acutely as the legal challenges. His personal life bore the brunt. The emotional distance between him and his partner widened, strained by the relentless pressure and the constant spotlight. Conversations became terse, filled with unspoken fears and fragile hopes. Yet, amid the turmoil, moments of vulnerability surfaced, revealing the depth of their bond and the difficulty of navigating love in the eye of a storm. Marcus Delroy's role took on new significance. His efforts at judicial reform faced resistance, but his resolve remained firm. The intersection of his path with Elon's became a symbol of the broader themes at play: redemption, accountability, and the possibility of change. Their private correspondence, once cautious and formal, evolved into a frank exchange about power, responsibility, and the human cost of ambition. The emotional climax came during a pivotal court session when Elon, confronted with damning evidence, chose honesty over defensiveness. His admission of mistakes, framed by a commitment to learning and growth, surprised many in the courtroom. The moment was raw and powerful, cutting through the adversarial atmosphere and revealing a man willing to face his flaws head-on. As the trial moved into its final phases, Elon retreated into reflection. In solitude, surrounded by reminders of past achievements and future dreams, he grappled with the unraveling threads of his public and private life. The chapter closed with a sobering yet hopeful message, that even as things fall apart, the chance to rebuild remains, forged through courage, humility, and the relentless pursuit of a better future. The courtroom was silent but charged, a tension so thick it seemed to cling to the walls. Elon Musk sat at the defense table, his expression a mask of calm, but inside, every nerve was electrified. This was the final showdown, the culmination of months of relentless scrutiny, emotional upheaval, and unyielding pressure. Every detail, every testimony, every argument up to this point had led here. The judge's gaze swept over the packed room, signaling that the last phases of the trial were about to unfold. The prosecution launched into their closing arguments with fervor, painting Elon as a man blinded by ambition, reckless in his decisions, and responsible for the chaos that had engulfed his empire. Their words were sharp, intended to cut through the defense's narrative and sway the jury toward conviction. Elon's legal team responded with equal intensity, highlighting the innovations, the risks taken for progress, and the vision that had transformed industries. They portrayed Elon not as a villain, but as a flawed genius, a visionary wrestling with impossible challenges in a rapidly changing world. The courtroom drama was at its peak. Each side delivered a performance that combined passion, logic, and raw emotion. The jury watched, absorbing every word, every nuance. Elon felt the weight of history in the room, the possibility that this moment could redefine his legacy forever. Outside, the media buzzed with speculation. Commentators debated who had the upper hand, social media erupted with fervent support and harsh criticism, and the public waited with bated breath. Elon's personal life felt like it hung in a delicate balance, the strain of the trial reflected in every private conversation, every quiet moment of doubt or resolve. Marcus Delroy's presence loomed large in the background. His own journey from disgrace to redemption had paralleled Elon's fight in unexpected ways. The tentative respect that had grown between them was a testament to the complexities of justice, power, and forgiveness. As closing arguments ended, Elon was called to the stand one final time. His testimony was not just a defense but a profound reflection. He spoke candidly about the burdens of leadership, the sacrifices made, and the unwavering hope that had driven him forward despite every obstacle. The emotional climax hit like a thunderclap, the courtroom absorbing the raw honesty and vulnerability that broke through the tension. The judge's instructions to the jury were delivered with gravity, emphasizing the weight of their decision. Elon sat quietly as the jury began their deliberations, each minute stretching into an eternity. Outside, supporters gathered, holding their breath, waiting for the verdict that could change everything. The chapter closed with a moment of stillness, a pause before the storm. Elon's fate hung in the balance, the final showdown not just about the law, but about the future, his future, the future of innovation, and the fragile hope for redemption and justice. The courtroom waited in hushed anticipation as the jury filed back into the room, their faces unreadable, the weight of their decision pressing down on everyone present. Elon Musk sat rigid, the months of tension finally boiling down to this singular moment. His entire world, the companies, the reputation, the personal sacrifices, hinged on the verdict they were about to deliver. The judge called the courtroom to order, her voice calm but carrying a profound solemnity. The foreperson stood, cleared their throat, and began to read the verdict. As each word echoed through the room, time seemed to slow. The charges, the accusations, the defense, all balanced delicately on the jury's judgment. Then came the declaration: Elon Musk was found not guilty on the most serious counts, with minor penalties related to corporate governance issues. A collective sigh swept through the courtroom, some faces breaking into smiles, others reflecting relief or disbelief. Elon felt a wave of exhaustion, disbelief, and a cautious hope wash over him. The verdict was more than legal exoneration, it was a chance to reclaim control over his life and legacy. The aftermath was a whirlwind. Media outlets buzzed with analyses, some hailing the verdict as a triumph of innovation and justice, others warning of the lingering questions. Elon's supporters rallied, energized by the outcome and the resilience he had shown. His personal life, once strained by the relentless pressures, began to mend. Conversations with his partner grew more open, more honest, as they navigated the path toward healing and renewed connection. Marcus Delroy's journey mirrored the themes of redemption and transformation. His own reforms and public advocacy gained momentum, showing that even in the face of past failures, meaningful change was possible. The two men met quietly after the trial, their conversation marked by respect and the acknowledgement of shared struggles. The emotional climax of the story came in Elon's private reflection. Alone in his office, surrounded by reminders of past triumphs and future dreams, he contemplated the lessons etched into his journey. The sacrifices, the moments of doubt, the relentless pursuit of a vision that transcended personal gain. He recognized that true leadership meant not just innovation, but humility and the courage to face one's own flaws. The story closed with a profound message: life is full of surprises, challenges, and unexpected turns, but love, resilience, and integrity will always lead the way. Elon Musk's journey was not just a tale of trial and controversy, it was a testament to the power of redemption, the enduring human spirit, and the relentless pursuit of a better future. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?